Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Christy, Ben, Alonzo, just kind of checking in on some entertainment news before we all depart for the holidays. Christmas Story Live debuted on Fox last night and did not do well, not at all.
Worst numbers ever for this is a very narrow statistic.
Yeah.
Live television musical,
Right.
Worst numbers ever.
Right, and there's been a bunch of these. They did Sound of Music, they did Grease.
Hairspray.
And I was very skeptical when they did Grease because I'm like, just don't touch my childhood. You're messing with it. But then eventually that won me over because there was a certain earnestness to it, and the performances were good. But this was just, it just looked flat and shoddy, and like the lighting was horribly unflattering, and it was just awkward and stiff and never clicked from the very beginning.
I think one of the big problems here is that, the Christmas Story musical is fairly new. It hasn't been performed a lot. So people don't know it, and so it's that joke from Amadeus. People like to hear music they already know. People like to see Sound of Music, Grease, Peter Pan, like shows they know, songs they know in a new context performed by maybe people they like. But this one, because people have a totally different context for a Christmas Story that has nothing to do with it being a musical, seeing the musical and seeing it live isn't necessarily a draw. And then it was kind of flat. There is that weird thing of, if you're gonna do a live musical on the East Coast, you have to shoot it at 5 p.m. or whatever in Burbank when the sun is still out. And so even though with the snow on the ground, it was like very LA sunshine happening, it was a somewhat misbegotten project.
The whole thing with Matthew Broderick though, because there's the narrator is a narrator in the movie, and here you physically see him and he just like walks around and like, can they see him? He's in the room.
He's like
right
the stage
there.
manager in our town.
Yeah, and so it's uncomfortable. And of course, because it's live, it's a little imperfect. So there are a bunch of flub lines, and I just felt like it never got into a rhythm. Yeah.
I confess two things. One, I didn't see it at all.
You're fine. You're totally fine.
I didn't know it was on.
We stumbled upon it.
Yeah, I didn't have any idea, but I am struck by ABC aired The Sound of Music.
You're right. Yes, last night the movie.
The actual movie, and though the Christmas Story did better in the demo. They got the exact same number of viewers, which for the to make a
50-year-old movie,
50-year-old movie, they both got
Which is great.
4.5 million viewers.
Yeah, it kind of strands Maya Rudolph. She doesn't really get a whole lot to do or to be charismatic as the mom in the family. But I am not a Gilmore Girls fan. I know that you are, but I saw that somebody tweeted during this that it was the same backlot neighborhood as Gilmore Girls.
It was the Warner backlot, and I was watching it, I kept thinking, is this the Back to the Future backlot? But
that's
no,
Universal.
That's exactly. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I knew this was coming, but of course I pay attention to news about Christmas movies, so that's sort of my gig. But yeah, the songs were whatever. I mean,
are they not written by the same La La Land guys?
They are written by the same La La Land
Greatest Showman guys,
and the Dear Evan Hansen guys.
Right, and so in theory, like lyrically, it should have been kind of inventive in some way.
Yeah, I don't know. And I could see where seeing this on stage would work because you walk into that knowing what you're getting. I think a lot of people, like I said, because this is a new musical to most of America, they were just sort of like, oh, you're taking this movie that I like and you're restaging it and you're throwing these songs into it and I don't want. Although I'd be curious to know if the numbers were people tuning out in droves or did they just not even show up?
First of all, for all live events, the numbers get adjusted, so those numbers may change a little bit.
Adjusted how? What do you mean?
That for when events are live for some reason, because more people, I don't know if that means more people are likely to come in later, that the overnight instant numbers they get fluctuate greater with live events. So there will be later today more solid numbers on how many people watched.
So it could be better or worse.
I suppose it could be worse. But the thing about demo is still so true because the Jeremy Piven show that got canceled called Wisdom of the Crowd was also on last night.
I have never heard of this.
Never heard of it. I think I only heard of it because there were allegations against him.
Right, well that's really
I heard about the allegations, but not the show.
That's just bad marketing right there.
That's what got it. But it aired last night on CBS, and there were 4.5 million people who apparently watched both Sound of Music and A Christmas Story. But The Christmas Story did a 1.5 of the 18 to 49, because 49-year-olds and 18-year-olds have so much in common.
Totally, yes.
Right. Wisdom of the Crowd got 7.3 million people. So a canceled Jeremy Piven show got 7.3 million people, but 1.1. So again, CBS still Everybody watching CBS
is over 50.
Is still solidly over 50. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who's going to have who's been having the numbers, and I would not be surprised if they had numbers that were competitive with, or maybe even better than A Christmas Story Live. It's the frickin' Hallmark Channel. I keep reading article after article about how they are just killing it, and how people
hate watching it though, like cheesiness. Curiosity.
You know what? Watching is watching, but no. Apparently, among women 18 to 49 and 25 to 54, they got that shit locked down.
But this I've always loved TV ratings because there's a gentleman's agreement that we know these probably aren't accurate, but we're all just gonna go.
We're gonna fudge them in the same way.
We're gonna fudge them in the same way, but it's going away. Like we're as more and more streaming services pop up, and that is obviously where we're headed in some capacity. And they just don't tell us.
Yeah,
it's a totally different model. The days of being able to sort of examine and do a deep dive on TV ratings, which I've always loved doing, is those
yeah,
days
Netflix doesn't tell, Amazon doesn't tell. It's sort of like, and it's the same is kind of seeping into box office grosses too, where you have a movie that is day and date, so like it's opening in a handful of theaters, but then also on iTunes or whatever. iTunes is not going to tell you, or the distributor's not going to tell you how they did on iTunes. So those box numbers are just like hypothetical.
And they can very easily quantify that.
Well, that's that.
There's a finite number of people who downloaded it or paid for it or whatever.
Yeah, that's even less wobbly than like tickets sold or whatever. So, anyway, sorry, A Christmas Story Live. You did your best.
You were ambitious.
Yeah, we like ambition.
You shot your eye out.
Yeah.
Did I steal your line?
I knew somebody was going to say that. No,
I have no shame.
It's okay. I was going to say it. Embarrassed that I was saying it. So you took.
I have no shame.
Do you watch the movie every Christmas? Is that a thing you will do?
Most Christmases, yeah.
Because I think one of our sister networks there, TNT, or somebody
they
runs
do the 24-hour.
Somebody runs it. I think TNT runs it 24 hours.
And that's who started the whole 24-hour thing. Was Turner? I think saw the void of It's a Wonderful Life not being in the public domain anymore, and that's how they made Christmas Story to the iconic holiday hit that it is. So the musical is probably not going to follow suit, but you never know.
Bye.